Welcome everyone to this regularly scheduled board meeting of the Tahoe PUD. If you could all please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any comments from the audience on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing that, we have a correction to the consent agenda, and it has to do with the the sewer capital outlay account rollovers. I think each of you has a copy, so that's the only thing I have in terms of corrections to the agenda of the consent calendar. Does anybody have anything else?
So we're pulling
We have to pull this and vote it separately?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll pull this and we'll vote on this separately then. Anything else? Okay, let's have a motion. Well, I'll move to adopt the agenda and consent calendar minus this pulled item here for the capital outlay account rollovers.
I'll second that.
And that passes 4-0. What item was this? Was this B? And this was item B. Okay, do we have a motion on this? So indicated.
And this is just due to some last-minute expense analysis because we're still dealing with the June 30th expenses, so it affected it. It reduced it slightly.
Yeah, it looks like it was only a few bucks. Okay, so now we need a motion. How do we want to work that? You do it. Okay, I move that we authorize staff to direct rollover funds budgeted in the 2016-2017 fiscal year to the 2017-2018 fiscal year as including this revised schedule. As amended with the schedule.
I'll second that.
And that passes 4-0. Thanks. Okay, are you up next, Chris?
Good afternoon. August 3rd, I came to the board, Cliff and I did, and asked that if we could go out to bid for a Bobcat Toolcat utility vehicle. It was approved, so we went out to bid, and we opened up the bids Tuesday, and we sent out several bids to different companies. Evidently, there's quite a few Bobcat dealers in California and a few in Nevada. And we've got a total of 3 bids back, which I believe you guys have up there. And the lowest bid was in the amount of $55,301.61 from Bobcat of Reno. So I'm here today asking the board to find Bobcat of Reno the lowest responsible bidder in the listed amount of $55,301.61.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We're just going to jump right into the vote, Chris. We discussed this last time.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I'm making it short and sweet.
Look who's here.
And
Thank
that
you.
passes 4-0. Thanks. Okay, Stephen, you have talk about the emergency generator. Hey, Marla, can you turn on Dwayne's screen?
I have to, come over and do that.
Sorry, Marla, I got your message.
Sorry, Stephen.
That's fine. Take your time. I'll wait till everyone's settled.
Dwayne was able to make it because he probably won the tournament, and so he was able to get out early.
I dredged a pipeline for him. There's no reason to kneel.
Just human like us.
That's right, I'm just like anybody else.
Don't take a second.
I figured Dwayne's going to need a screen because he doesn't have a binder, so he's going to have to go off the TV.
Will you help me with the big words? I'm sorry, Marla did call ahead and ask me if I was going to make it, and I didn't think I would. So otherwise she would have had the screen on. But she did blame you.
Good grief. I think that power switch needs to be located someplace more convenient.
It looks like that's supposed to plug in somewhere.
Oh, that's there we go.
And I could always say aye or nay.
You can always use mine.
That's right.
Well, if you want to take the vote, you can enter it manually. You can do the manual one while this pulls up if you'd like.
And we can skip me on that vote. We'll just catch the next one since I don't know what we're on anyway.
We talked about this a long time ago.
Said you could skip me if you want. Right.
It's okay. Sounds like you need to go.
There's a nice little coyote kind of following us around. Beautiful day.
There's a
You smell like food?
And no, there's a guy out there that goes, he keeps doing this.
He was doing that. I thought, is he okay?
So he's just not a dog.
Yeah,
He's not a coyote anymore. He
Thank
doesn't
you,
have a
thank you very
chauffeur.
much.
It was a little.
Steven, thank you for your patience.
Sir?
Thank you. And Marla, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I am here today to ask the board for authorization to pre-qualify contractors and specifically SCADA integrators for the wastewater treatment plant emergency generator replacement project. To give you a little bit of an update of where we are on the project at this point, we have received a set of 100% plans from HDR, who's our consultant on it. We are planning to go out to bid towards the end of October on this project, hopefully having bids open in December and get a contractor under contract first part of the year of 2018. The construction of the project will last 2 construction seasons, so we should be done in fall of 2019 with the project. But as we have done in the past with projects that interact with our SCADA system on the treatment plant, I think we've done this now and 3 times, I believe, at least, is we've pre-qualified SCADA integrators since integrating with our existing SCADA system while it's running and while we have to keep the plant in operation is a bit more complicated than what just anybody can do. And so we've successfully gone through this process in the past, and we would like to do it again on this project to make sure that we get qualified SCADA integrators to do the work for us. And if I have any questions, I can certainly answer them.
Pre-qualifying just makes it easier once you get the bid.
Yeah, so basically, we will give the generals a list of who's the pre-qualified SCADA integrators, and they must use one of those
They must use one of those.
in their bid.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds important.
I'll move approval.
I'll move. You want to do that?
You can do it.
I'll move that we authorize staff to pre-qualify contractors to bid on wastewater treatment plant emergency generator replacement project.
I'll second that.
I remember discussing this before.
Yeah. Did they end up keeping the building in the same place, or are they moving it?
We're building a new building,
But is it in the same spot or
Same.
different spot? Same.
same spot. It shifted a little bit, but it's in the same spot. And it got shorter.
Oh,
So it's not quite as tall.
And that one passes 5-0.
very good.
2017 fire hydrant surface expansion. Thank you. Hey, Julie.
Hi, afternoon. I am here to request that the board authorize a reimbursement agreement between the district and the city so that we may proceed with installation of storm drain work on Pinter Avenue in the Sierra Tract on the behalf of the city. We had a meeting with the city a few months ago. They brought up this small piece of work. It's about 350 linear feet of storm drain replacement. So they have this small piece of work that they need to get done this summer. It's such a small amount, and because we already have a number of contractors under contract to the district this summer, they asked if we would be willing to entertain having our contractor perform that work. So what we did is we went forward with issuing a directive to each of the 3 contractors that are working on our water system this summer, Vinciguerra Construction, SNC, and White Rock, requesting that they provide us with prices for the city's work. We received 2 responses back, and the lowest of those was White Rock Construction. The total amount was on the order of $150,000. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but with a contingency built into the reimbursement agreement. The agreement that we're asking for you to authorize is in the amount of $180,000. So just in case something comes up during construction, causing that price to go over, we won't need to come back to you or the city council in order for us to finish up the work.
Sounds good. They're paying for it ultimately, so
They're paying for it.
We're doing them a favor, and I'm glad that we're able to work together.
And I heard the same sentiment from the city council. They approved the agreement on Tuesday, and it was reported to me this morning that they were very appreciative of our willingness to work with them on this and help them get this done in a timely and cost-effective manner.
Okay, so I want to jump in there with a motion.
I'll move that we authorize staff to enter into a reimbursement agreement with the City of South Lake Tahoe to provide improvements to a storm drain within the project area for actual costs up to $180,000, including contingency.
Second.
Much.
Thanks, Julie. That passes 5-0. Okay, we're up to 6G now. Good afternoon, Evo.
Hi, guys. Good afternoon, board members. So item 6D is to authorize staff to enter into agreement with Kenny Jenks Consultants to complete an engineering feasibility study of remedial alternatives to address PCE groundwater contamination in the South Y area. I believe you guys are probably pretty familiar and have heard this before, but the South Y plume is impaired several water sources, the Lucan Brothers Water Company well number 2, their number 5 well, and the Tahoe Keys Water Company well number 2, and low levels of PCE is currently being detected in the Tahoe Keys number 1 well. So that represents a significant amount of water supply that has been lost by these neighboring water systems. And the district, as the largest public water system in the South Shore area, through our interties and mutual aid agreements with these neighboring water systems, we are the water provider of last resort to meet the system water demands for both Lucan Brothers and Tahoe Keys. So it's in the district's interest that this groundwater contamination problem is managed in a manner that would allow these water systems to operate without any kind of increased reliance on the district's water system. So that's how we got to this feasibility study. So what the feasibility study will do is provide a recommended alternative to manage this groundwater contamination problem and hopefully ensure that groundwater from this area can continually be used by these water systems to provide drinking water in the future. So the feasibility study generally involves, I hope you received the memorandum that I sent earlier this week to you. A number of components. There's a large stakeholder outreach, and so that's going to be used to inform permitting agencies, affected water system customers in both Lucan Brothers and Tahoe Keys water systems, and the interested public, probably the City of South Lake Tahoe, of the need and progress of the feasibility study. It includes a review of pertinent regulatory guidance so that all relevant requirements, regulatory requirements, are identified and considered during the feasibility study. There's also a component for reporting assistance for grant funding compliance with the Prop 1 grant. And then lastly, but not least, the actual performance and completion of the feasibility study. So funding for the project is being provided through a preliminary grant award of up to $294,270 that the district received through the Proposition 1 Groundwater Grant Program in March. Lynn and I made a phone call to the State Water Board Department of Financial Assistance yesterday to get an update as far as the status on that grant agreement. They are now promising to get a draft of the grant agreement to the district by Labor Day. And so I guess that's the good news. The other part is that the actual final agreement, I guess they have, there's a packet of about a dozen such agreements that are going to be going out Labor Day. We're somewhere in the middle of that stack. So they're saying that it may be another 2 to 3 months after we receive the draft that that grant agreement is actually executed. So thinking about this and what I would like to do is move forward with the request to the staff to enter in an agreement with Kennedy Jenks for the work. I think it's important that we have Kennedy Jenks on board as the consultant for this work so that they can be involved in the negotiation process with State Water Board and be a participant in that as it directly impacts their scope of work. So if you take a look at the grant award, there are 3 different components in the grant award. There's we have a line item as far as costs for district's project administration costs that are approximately about $30,000 of that $294. We have a placeholder in there for as-directed services of around $40,000, and then we have the feasibility study itself, which is $224,000. So what I'd like to throw out there for your consideration is that we use a portion of the as-directed services, and we would issue direction to the consultant. Basically, it would be like a limited notice to proceed, that we would give them some additional funds on top of the $224,000 that they included in their cost proposal to actually do the feasibility study, to basically cover those couple months that they would be working with us through this grant agreement negotiation process. So what that limited amount is, I think, somewhere in the order of 10 to 15,000 should be more than enough to cover it. So what we would be looking for is a project award to Kennedy Jensen, and not to exceed amount of, somewhere in the order of $234,000 to $240,000. Any questions?
Have one.
Sure.
You're the expert on PCE. Why is it PCE when there's no P in tetrachloroethyl?
Has something to do probably with this Greek derivation, I'm sure, but that would be my...
Always bothered me.
I'll look that up for you, Jim.
Thanks.
You stumped the expert.
Yeah. At least let's be the expert.
Well, trust me, you'll get your answer. He's just not going to answer till he gets it right. This guy going to get it right. Right? I have one small question. When it comes to Lukens and the Keys, who is doing the checks on the pollution, and how often are the tests being done?
Well, that's a good question. So right now, Luken Brothers, their wells are off. So they're not doing, they're not producing from those two wells. And but the district, we are actively collecting samples from Luken Brothers wells, and we've done that twice over the past 6 months. We plan on doing it again later on in August, just to provide more information for the fate and transport model, just as a check on the contaminant distributions that we're using in the model. Tahoe Keys, they're monitoring quite frequently. I'd say as often or maybe even more than monthly on the number 2 and the number 1 well.
Thank you.
Well, it needs to be done, and we got grant money to do it, so it sounds like a deal.
I'll move that we authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Kennedy Jenks Consultants to complete an engineering feasibility study of remedial alternatives to mitigate PCE contaminated groundwater through the Y area feasibility study with a preliminary grant award in an amount of up to $294,270.
What we're going to, in the purchase order and the task order to Kennedy Jenks, we're going to cap it at $240,000.
Is that the motion you want then?
I would prefer that. That would be my preference, but it's possible for the as the balance on the as-directed services, the $30,000 for project administration costs, those are reserved for the district. So that's not in the consultant's pot to use. So
why don't you give us a current number?
You said 240,000.
240.
It would be 224,200 plus 4178, whatever that number is.
You want us to do the math?
If it's 35, why don't we just do 264, 270?
Why didn't we just leave it at 290?
What'd you get for question 6?
264, 378.
264, 378.
Yeah,
That reserves are the district
portion. Yeah.
Okay, so what motion do you want from her?
Should I just say it all again with that new revised amount?
No, just
So I'm correcting my motion to change the grant award, to change the amount to $264,378.
Okay, I'll second that.
But didn't dry cleaners used to use perchloroethylene, which they used to call it PERC.
Yeah.
So is that why it's PCE?
It goes, but there are a number
Kind of all the
of
same
different
thing,
terms
right?
that are used for tetrachloroethylene. PERC's one of those.
And have they, one of the laws that really bothers me is the strict liability law, where you have to, for instance, with the dump out in Myers, Doug, who owns the Tahoe Valley Pharmacy, was not even alive when that pharmacy or the buildings there were possibly using that dump or possibly putting anything in it. Yet, it was,
Yeah, he's on the hook for it, yeah.
that's crazy. That's just wrong. I hope that's one of the things the swamp gets cleaned up from. I mean, yeah, they get, okay, somebody's got to clean it up, but why should somebody who wasn't even alive do it? So, okay.
Thanks, Evo.
Thank you.
By the way, that passed 5-0. Next up is payment of claims.
I move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $1,659,888.79.
Second.
That passes 5-0. Next up, standing and ad hoc committee reports. I'll start this off with last Friday, Richard and Dwayne and I met with Nancy Carey, Wendy David, and Brooke Lane at the city for our monthly meeting. And Dwayne, do you want to give me your take on all that?
Well, the primary reason the city was meeting with us was regarding the Measure C, and they wanted our district to support, to act. I guess the best word could be described would be to actively support Measure C, and Randy and I and Richard discussed that our attorney had given us cautionary language to keep us from violating the guidelines that are required of utility districts, and we suggested that perhaps they had the same types of guidelines. For instance, our Richard should not be going out, especially on his on behalf of the district, and spending district time and money supporting a measure of that nature, and that perhaps Nancy Carey should not be doing that. And their reasoning, correct me if I'm wrong, was that they were doing it individually on their own time. That each city council member was doing that, and that they were not coordinating it. Even though these are just my thoughts, it was pretty hard to imagine that 5 city council members arrived at an agreement on something and never talked to each other and met about it, came up with the same wording and language. So we felt like we had to be honest with them and tell them that we understood the need for something like this, but that we represented all our employees and we represent all our customers, some of who live outside the city and some who live in, and that we had to think a little bit more about whether we wanted to make a commitment that would look like we were committing the entire organization to supporting that, and that we'd have to think about it, that we, and we asked them why they didn't actually say, will you vote on this today, because it could have been an action item the way I understood it. And they said that they felt like they had asked us, and they were kind of surprised that we sat there and didn't say anything. I think all of us, without talking to each other, kind of secretly hoped that it would go away, because it's a little bit of a tough thing to do. We'd never been asked to do something like that before. So what we told them is we wanted to check a little bit more closely with our staff and manager, or our attorney, and see what they thought about it. Is that correct? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, my take on it is they basically just said, you know, this measure is going to be good for the district as well as for the city. And because of that, we would like you to endorse it. I expressed concerns that I just really, first of all, I don't know that our endorsement would help them. Number one, another government agency piling on with another government agency to raise people's taxes. I don't think that's a real convincing argument. They didn't seem to look at it that way, though, so that got dismissed pretty quickly. We went into the meeting with this statement here. Each board member has it, and this was drawn up, I believe, by you, Gary. Is that right? And basically what it is it's I call it a statement of fact. In other words, it basically states that if the city has an ongoing active road program, that would be beneficial to the district, because we could look at their master plan, look at ours, see what fits together, and our projects might go a little smoother. We also would be able to protect our infrastructure that's in the ground, like manhole covers and the like that might be jeopardized due to poor road conditions around that infrastructure.
Just so everybody knows, we did have to go out and Chris directed our crews were put some temporary patches around some of those manholes that were starting to be exposed due to the failure of the road before they got hit by snowplows. So that was something we had to do this past winter.
Richard, is there anything Dwayne and I are missing on this that you recall?
Well, I did tell them that we were concerned and frankly put off by especially the city attorneys.
By the way, you know what?
Yeah. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But that he'd been pretty rough on us, claiming that we were the primary cause, and that Brooke had actually said a few things, but I didn't mention that then because I didn't want her to hit me or anything. But we said, that was hard, a little bit hard to swallow, and it gave Richard the chance to explain how the asphalt expands and contracts, and the various methods that we've tried to use, and the fact that sometimes we have to use cement, and that cement doesn't expand and contract the same way that asphalt does, and that the city gives us the specs and we follow the specs, and that during freezing conditions we have the issues with the snowplow catching lids, pitching them into the air, or other things that happen that we weren't, that our staff could give us better information for. And at least it gave us a chance to explain to them that the simple thing that, the district's the cause, is just not the clear fact, that there are a variety of reasons why asphalt does what it does and plows do what they do during all the conditions, and that we would appreciate it if they would, consider those things. And so I think that helped. So it's a little bit hard, but we did a survey through the Chamber of Commerce to get an idea, and 56% of the chamber members said that they were for it, and 30-something% said that they were not, and then there was that group in between that were not sure yet. So we didn't say yes. We didn't say no, and we didn't say yes because we didn't want to speak for you guys. Anyway.
It's the only thing I would add, and I think we again tried to convey this, and I had been asked by several of you at the end of the last board meeting, in essence, what was the impact on the district, potential impact, and that's what we tried to capture in this several sentences, is that the project that was done at Saddle Keller a couple of years ago, where the city was able to come up with a bunch of money, and entire streets were repaved in the area where we had replaced water lines because the entire streets were falling apart, that we would expect that to be more of the model of future projects. So that's why in this statement we talked about the district-city cooperative effort to improve the streets. The streets would, if they were maintained better, they would protect our facilities better during the winter, as opposed to us having to run around in coal patch where they're beginning to be exposed by asphalt failure. And so that's what this, in essence, tries to capture is, obviously there will be some street improvements, and there'll be more of the projects. In fact, you just approved one where the city had come up with enough money to improve drainage in the Sierra Track. And next year we expect their contractor to be putting in, because they did get the grant. They were very happy. They told us they got the grant for the rebuilding the Sierra Boulevard. So in that contract, we will be placing our work in their contract to do meters and service line replacements and replacing valves and a couple of other water line improvements, so that our work is done ahead of their paving operation. And again, the coordination between city and district projects would be enhanced by their ability to have money to consistently plan and let us know ahead of time where they're going with their paving operation. The snafu in the Keys, which they still blame on us, and I can't figure out exactly why, but they had told us they were going to pave in the Keys, so we changed our direction, put the Keys waterline project at the top of the list, and then after we got done designing it, went out to bid, they said they didn't have the money, and then now the streets are half paved, and everybody notices that, and it's sort of, the city says it's our fault, but
well, they blame that they waited on us to get the design, and then the window closed for their money. That's their rationale.
But anyway, I think there would be less of that. So I think there would be some benefits to the district, with them having a better financed road improvement program.
Basically, they liked this statement, but the comment was after they read it, then the next sentence at the end should say, and that's why we endorse Measure C, or whatever it is. That's what they wanted at the end. And I explained to them that I personally did not think that this board would go for that. I just didn't feel that I haven't talked to it. No Brown Act was violated, but I just get the feeling that it just wasn't going to happen. So what I told them I would do, and the reason I told them this is I do think these monthly meetings are a good thing. I think we're getting along well with the city now, and so I would like to try to meet them part way on this. This is just, I'm just speaking for myself, and so I don't have a problem with us adopting something like this, stopping short of their endorsement. And the reason I don't have a problem, I've always said when it comes to elections, I think that the more information out there, the better. I don't want to insult the voters and tell them the way I think they should vote, but I do think that if it's a little bit of a benefit to the district, we should let them know that.
Have they distributed that flyer yet?
I don't know.
We got this in the mail.
So they've distributed that. So with a not no answer, we've already given our support, even though we haven't really done anything. Because that's what it says at the bottom.
So don't you get the impression this is more of a form letter and a fundraiser?
Yeah, this is a form.
But they've already thanked us for our support, which we haven't actually said no to or yes to.
Yeah, but I don't
Since
think,
we could use our stock statement, but we've already
yeah,
given them the.
this wasn't written for us, though.
I know, but that's my
It
point.
was written, I mean, because you.
It was sent out to everybody that reads it that says, thank you, stupid, for your support.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is not a nice thing.
We know, yeah.
Well, we haven't said that yet.
Well, I agree with you, but, so do you think that this
No,
is like
actually, this was-
sent to like, it's like a public statement or like a press release?
That's what it looks
I,
like.
Or is it gonna be
because
a-
I,
I haven't seen it anywhere else. We
I
got
thought
a
the
hard copy.
see, when, that's
Oh.
what I mean. I thought this just went to
Is this just to us? That's
Yeah,
what
I think it must be that last, thank you, STPUD, for your
and then
support.
maybe a similar.
And for all your
language
support you
that-
can improve our community.
But it's a generic solicitation for donations.
Yeah, I know.
Which means that's going somewhere besides here.
And that we're going to be, in essence, asking for donations.
Which is in essence already our support, even though we haven't said we're not giving our support.
Well, if it answers the question, if this form letter got mailed out to anybody else, including the second to last sentence, which says, thank you, STPUD, I don't know. But
Hopefully
it's
it didn't.
handwritten marks
Hopefully
on
it didn't,
this.
because it implies we supported them.
Yeah,
I mean, I would hope that it would be, if they sent one to you, it would say, thank you, Randy Vogelsang.
No, it's
It looks
like we
Because
can
this
help
is a-
Richard and Board, right?
Yeah.
you know, that was
I mean, this
handwritten
was-
in there, my first
Yeah.
name and board, so.
I mean, I would hope that that's what it was.
Now, I did talk to him about Measure T, and I stayed afterwards and talked to Wendy about it, and I said, you know, we're still worried that the TTD, along with the city, may leave our utility district stuck with the cost of moving pipelines and easements and hydrants and things like that. And one of their answers is this, oh, no, they weren't going to do that. And the other answer was that the city had no control, that the city didn't have a say in the matter. So I said, well, I personally have asked Richard to get something in writing, to have something that says from the TTD, we will pay for the movement of these things, that it will not be a cost to the district. Because the way their EIR states it, it says that the standard will be followed, and the standard, I'm paraphrasing.
Right, and certainly on Highway 50. Yeah.
And a Highway 50. So we could be stuck with anywhere, well, certainly in the millions. I don't know how much in the millions. So Wendy told me, well, the city doesn't have any control over that. They keep saying that, even in the lawsuit they said it. So in February, when I was in Washington, I had heard that, so I had my wife look it up on their, on TTD's EIR and on the record of decision. And it clearly stated that Caltrans and the city of South Lake Tahoe would have a say into whether the project went forward or not. So when I found that and I let it be known, they took it down real quick off the website. But I sent it to Wendy and Brooke and those guys and said, you're telling me this, I'm seeing that. These things are making us nervous.
Send that to them.
That day.
Or later that day?
Yeah,
Uh-huh,
because
okay.
that made me kind of nervous, as well it should. We hear one thing, we hear another, and
They did have a good suggestion related to that, is to actually have the TTD board pass a resolution that says that we would not be responsible for those costs.
so somewhere along the line, I, as one board member, am very nervous. I just know the players, and I'm very nervous about that. Just like with our grants, we ran into a problem. I just don't.
Okay, so one of the things is a suggestion. We submitted a written commentary to them as part of the environmental document process. They're required to publish a final environmental document with responses to every single written comment they receive. So if their written response to is not kind of a guarantee in writing saying the district will not be responsible for moving any water and sewer lines, then we submit the letter to their board saying, we want you guys to pass take action at one of your board meetings or resolution stating, make our request stating that you guys will pay for everything. And if they refuse, then we go, okay, well, we know we can see what's coming.
And my concern is we get a little bit too much farther down the road before we find that out. That's all. It's just me. So that's just one guy. So
Right now, if you send a letter, they could say, well, the administrative process is we let the EIR run, and then we have 60 days or whatever it is to make written responses to all of the comments that were submitted. Ours being one of them.
So we just wait for the final document.
except that they should have had it in there in the first place. They shouldn't have left it that way. So that's okay. I'm done.
That's what I suggested. We
got
can send a
my-
letter now, but I'm just saying that's my perception of the process.
And Dwayne,
Not mine.
I suspect, that the city certainly has a say in what's going on because part of the process is to relocate city streets.
Well, the city attorney in the briefs, and I read the lawsuit, claimed that that was out of their control and that it was a federal project, that they didn't have any control, and the judge pretty much agreed. I mean, the city just folded on the lawsuit, just folded and said, we agreed. Not only that, Judge, but we hope that you make this a permanent injunction. But we'd be okay with that. So they were basically took the other guy's side. So I beat the horse enough. Let's get back to this one. And
Well, I was only talking about I'm not talking about the city's, control over the project. That in my mind, it's a different issue than.
well,
You're right, it is. Yeah.
it isn't in my mind because they could help us. If they have control over the project, they could say, wait a minute, the district's got an issue. They want us to help them. We've got a real concern of several millions of dollars, and they're saying, oh, we don't have anything to do with that. Well, you do have something to do with it.
Yeah, well, we know
So
the city attorney was wrong on a lot of things.
Right.
So,
I just don't want to be right this time. Okay, so back to this one.
So if we, in order to do what they want us, are requesting of us, we would actually need to have something drafted and it be on the agenda of a future board meeting. And I just want to know if we do that, is it going to get any support from the board? Is anybody interested in that?
I think there is some value in continuing to develop the relationship with the city because it helps in the long run, I think, with the projects that are going on, especially the loop road thing down the road. But I don't know if we want to go any further than our statement there. I like our little statement. I think it addresses it how I would address it. No further. I don't think.
Got a feel for this,
Up
Kelly?
to you guys.
I agree. I don't know if I want to put that last statement in there.
This one is kind of theirs, where they're thinking, and they probably have one thinking, the Keys Property
I understand
Association.
You showed them this,
Yes.
and they said, add that.
They
last
said we
one.
like it, but
But
the last sentence should be, therefore we support Measure C.
I think the last statement of our statement is a
Yeah.
pretty positive statement.
Yeah.
About the situation.
And I think it implies
I agree
that
with you.
there is
Yeah.
support.
I don't think it needs to go any
Jim,
further.
do you have a feel on this?
I don't think we should be endorsing it or either for or against it.
What about something like this letter?
That's fine. There may be a little, tweeting of that, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with this.
Yeah.
Let me, a couple comments. Just on the bigger picture, the district from time to time supports or opposes legislation and so forth and gives letters of support or opposition. And typically the district does that where it has some direct significant impact on the district's finances, operations, those types of things.
Benefits the ratepayers.
Yes, and whether it's financial or otherwise. This in my discussions with Rich and a little bit with Randy, I mean, the connection is fairly tenuous as far as any significant, and that's where we developed a statement about impact, which you're allowed to, without taking a position for or against, the district's allowed to just say this is the impact of what the ballot measure would be doing, without taking that. You're certainly entitled to, if you feel it's appropriate, to support or oppose it. But this seemed like a way to make a positive statement without taking a formal position. And with that statement, you can formalize it if you want and say the board's adopting this as formally as this position on an agenda item. I was just talking to Paula a second ago, and you can also just informally direct staff to distribute this as the district's statement about the impact of the measure on the district. So it's a step, a little bit. It's not quite so formal, but the information's still out there. So I think you have some options.
Actually, that's what I was thinking of. Typically, when we have this type of a letter, we don't actually put it on the agenda and vote on it. We just direct staff to put that information out there. And you're at the meeting, I know.
No, I'm okay with it. I'm not too okay with them already putting us in an ad.
Well, we don't know who.
And we don't know who did it or didn't do it.
Well,
And
that's a big question.
are we going to ask people to give $500 or $1,000? Is that something the district? Because in voting on this, we're voting for that. It looks like. So I'm okay with this. I think it's.
Well,
Richard, should you maybe just follow up and ask them if this was directed just at us, or if this actually went out to? Because and if they, if it is going to go out to greater consumption, just tell them that we need our name off of that.
Or even if you could call Wendy or Brooke and just say, not necessarily Richard could want it, like you could call Wendy and say, what is that for? I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, I think someone should make an inquiry whether this was solely directed at the district, or if a similar statement went out on other similar letters to others, because they certainly, if it did, they certainly, I mean, even to the district, they to Richard, and to you, jumped the gun because you haven't taken any formal action.
I think it went out to us because it's dear Mr. Solberg.
yeah, but I don't understand why it's soliciting donations, though.
Yeah, I know.
It looks like a public form letter.
Certainly the letter was some form of this letter went out to a bunch of people.
Yeah, it was part of the template that they added
There's
to.
a template, and that's part of the template. And I think they didn't modify the template because I don't think they were expecting us to send a check to the district. So the question is was the thank you STPB part of the template, or was it an additional phrase added to the letter to us? I don't know.
I'm inclined to believe that it's just the template, and then if they sent one out to you as an individual, then it would say, thank you, Mr. Solberg, for your support, meaning just your support of the city and the community.
Well,
but it would be nice to know for certain that
How widespread this letter.
Exactly. If this was just for our eyes only, which is what I think, I would hope.
Yeah, I guess the question is, to what extent does our saying, okay, we're nodding, all right, it's something that's good for us and good for the community, does that give carte blanche to us being in ads? Are we going to end up STPUD supports, and is that okay, or is it not okay? So that's a good question, don't you think?
I think that the question should be directed to Wendy and Brooke, and I could contact them and say, our board kind of is curious about the statement in the letter that we got.
Yeah, like where did this thing go?
Yeah, I mean, how many people got this letter?
And the odd part is they're not supposed to be doing this officially as a council. They're doing it as individuals, so the contact needs to be done to it.
Well, that's why it's got
Paid for by
email.
Residents for Better Roads.
Yeah.
But they still at the bottom, they still sign them when they're listed as council members and mayor pro tem them.
Yeah,
Not
that's
just-
it. Yeah, I think
Not
they're
just Wendy and Brooke.
kind of dancing along the line there. That's their issue, though.
They were doing it
that's-
individuals. When they came here at our last meeting, it seemed like they were representing the city. You know, the three of them, you know, wasn't like they were individuals. And then the $500 to $1,000 request, that sounds like it was more aimed at us rather than the general public, because they're not going to send that out to, you know, other people.
Jim, they did say that when I mentioned it politically, that I didn't think the board had the will to do that. They said, well, you could personally write a letter endorsing it.
Well, okay.
I didn't jump all over it, just to let you know.
Well, frankly, I don't think they're really being truthful about the whole thing, because what they're thinking they're going to raise is not going to be enough to really fix the streets. It's just repairs.
Well, they
gonna-
basically admitted that. The number they came at was a political number.
But they're not telling the people out there that
Because they thought that's what could get
they're
through.
trying to infer that with this thing, you're going to fix the streets, and they're not.
Well, they're going to do better than what they're doing now.
Well, yeah, anything would be better than
Right.
what they're doing now.
I'm okay with the objective statement, and I'm not okay with carte blanche using our name in a bunch of ads. Although I think that's implied. I think that's what they think, that they can put us, and it'll be all these, like the Conservancy, SDPUD, all support this, the chamber.
So do we have a consensus of the board that this could be our official position?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just leave it at that. We can put that out there.
Okay.
You got to do that right away? Give us a couple days just to read this over and
Okay,
think
sure,
about it. Yeah.
sure.
Maybe a few other things.
By the way, I think that Randy, you and Richard and Shannon and the rest done a really good job of sensing what needs to go before the board and what needs to go on consent. I think you've done a great job of that. So deal with that. Because it's hard to know what 5 people are thinking or not going to think, and then it's not easy.
Okay. Do we have anything else under this item 7 with the standing ad hoc committees? If not, I'll move into board member reports. Nothing?
Well, just one, when it comes, I think there's a meeting at Sierra Community Church this evening regarding the Sierra Boulevard and how it will be configured. And it might have, that might have some effect on the district one way or another when it comes to where fire hydrants go, where bike trails go, where our pipes go. Because there's about 800 people, as my guess, that attend that church, and there's always been issues with parking, but the church has grown so doggone much that when if it changes and they don't have good impact or good discussions early, it could really throw everything and may even delay it a year. So I just thought I'd let you know. I hope maybe I could go. If I might be able to go over there tonight and see. But there's definitely a disagreement as to where parking should go. The city wants to. What's his last name? Jim Marino wants to move any parking all to the side streets. Well, that means a whole bunch of changes to perhaps to our ability to get in with pipes and fire hydrants that we're doing, and really would affect a lot of side streets versus one solution that I thought of is angled parking on one side of the road and perhaps bike trail on the other. But I don't have the answer. I just thought I'd let you know that could be an issue. So,
And is that those preliminary designs are kind of underway with the city getting their Caltrans grant
yeah,
to work on that street. They're planning all the drainage improvements and parking and curb and gutter.
Right.
The whole ball of wax down that street.
there's been a lot of warnings issued and things like that. So and what the final solution is could affect us.
And some of the neighborhoods, when they put the curb and gutters in, like they put boulders and posts and stuff along the side of the road to prevent people from parking. You can sort of maybe park in the asphalt section, but then in the wintertime, you got no place to park. Because you can't get off the asphalt. They put those, barriers in. And I know a lot of people got upset in a couple other areas of Sierra Track when they did that.
Yeah, a lot of people, there's a lot of little kids that go there. I've gone there a few times, and a lot of little kids, people holding their hands, trying to get across the streets with snow. And so maybe it's our issue, maybe it's not, but the final solution might be an issue for us. Don't know.
Okay, looks like we had a El Dorado County Water Agency Purveyor meeting here.
I guess since I'm the guy here, Jim was there, quite a few of our employees were there. The interim manager of Tahoe City PUD was here. And do you remember when we were talking with Cindy Gustafson at one time? They were talking about how there was a company out of New York, I think it was, but it's called California Golden State Water Company, was going to buy up some of the little water companies. Made no sense to me, but they were going to. And what it is similar to us. All these little water companies were built by the developer of each subdivision. So different developers developed each subdivision. So there's nothing standard about all these little water companies. And once they turned them over to the homeowners, there was no real maintenance or standard of maintenance when it came to fire flow, pollutants, any of that. And so the public pitched a fit, and so did TCPUD, is that the name? And they convinced that Golden State to drop out, and or convinced the owners of those little companies, to sell to Tahoe City PUD. So they're buying a whole slew of these little companies, and they're going to put everything in there, including, I think it was 500 fire hydrants they were talking about. I might have the number wrong, but a significant number of fire hydrants, significant amounts of upgrading, and mind you, they already do recreation. So they're going to do bike trails, all those kinds of things. They're really aggressive plan. I'm not sure where they're going to get the money except for grants. And the problem they've got with grants, help me out here, Paul, I think you were there, was that, here it is, and it might affect us. They have a lot of second homeowners who have high income. And they have a lot of local residents who have low income. And because they have these absent homeowners who have high income, it changes the income level of the community and eliminates them theoretically from the grants, which could affect us because we have so many second homeowners. That if that's true, it could have a significant effect on our ability to get grants.
Yeah, and there's even the number where they threw out that if it's more than 50% second home situation, no matter what the incomes are, you don't qualify for grants. Especially through some of our neighborhoods. So.
second homes that were already paid.
Exclusively used
They-
by the owners.
From what I understand, it didn't matter. It was,
Tahoe City has more homes that are vacant full-time,
mhm.
and that's why their percentage is higher.
Well, we're having an increase in our VHRs, and so I just thought I'd bring it up. And Lynn, I think Lynn was there. She gave a report as well, but it might be something we need to look into. What else did I miss?
No, nothing, just in terms of, just for information, it seemed like they have finally, the water agency has finally reached the end of the process with CalPERS and El Dorado County to basically be a separate agency. And so what it took was, they had set aside about $500,000 for potential legal expenses. What they did is they committed about $400,000 of that to basically pay all of the unfunded liabilities of having themselves be a standalone CalPERS entity. And so they basically got the board voted to basically spend the $400,000 and just pay off that unfunded liability. And then now they are separate. They're, in terms of CalPERS, they're separate from El Dorado County. They're still, the employees are still represented by the same union that represents the El Dorado County employees, but that was an additional agreement. But that's the culmination of 5 years of a process to separate from the county.
And since I've been involved with it, I even, like I said before, I even was the interim journal manager for 6 months once. But the county has kind of wanted the agency to move back into a county building, but that's the last thing that the water agencies like us want to do, because it was quite an effort to get out of that. And there may be, it was closed door session, so anyway, the building may need to be vacated at some point, and if it does, then that issue is going to be on the table again.
Well, I think my understanding is they're negotiating a new rental agreement, and there's even a location that they had in mind.
Yeah,
They
that was closed doors, so we're going to have to shoot you.
I got that from the staff members who were in the session. So I think they are moving, but I don't know where.
But it was really a problem when I first got to the district, because the supervisors were using it as a slush fund, and they borrowed, Jim will tell you, they borrowed at one time, I think, $3 million from the water agency and never paid it back. And
well, I think in that situation, the general manager for the water agency would be reporting to a department head in the county.
Right.
That was the setup the county wanted, and everybody's going, no. It's like the minute that pot of money is known about by the county, and the county's talking about having major financial problems in the future, they'll be just scooping that pot of money up, and that department head will go, no, I think it's a high priority for El Dorado County to spend it over here, not on water purveyor projects, and that money will be gone lickety-split.
They have the same problem the city does. They have, in fact, a much larger CalPERS liability. And one of the places they want to spend the money is, the county wants to spend the money, is on storm drainage. And the water agency has other areas besides storm drainage, even though that's an important one. One of them is the acquiring of water rights that they can use to sell that would increase the budget of the water agency by quite a bit and give them the ability to help the farmers and agencies like us to a greater degree.
But they are, the water agency, because it's a county-wide effort, the water agency is supporting, a planning effort for dealing with, stormwater throughout the county. So they're supporting, because it's water for the county. So that's why they think they can do that. But again, it's on the El Dorado County Water Agency's terms, in terms of its water. It's not doing curb and gutter on county roads, because they don't have the money to do it themselves.
And the reminder is there's 3 county supervisors on that board and 2 water agencies. So
and the 3 supervisors are all West Slope supervisors. So I mean, for a while we used to have our the Tahoe Basin supervisor on the board, so that there's sort of a little bit more balance. But no, it's definitely in terms of west slope versus east slope, it's 4-1 on that board.
You still owe us $1 million.
Mm-hmm. Texas Hill.
Our share of Texas Hills, huh?
But they're not going to do anything there, so we don't get any money.
All right.
It's still on the budget.
It's on the budget as a footnote. Yes, it's still there.
Make sure it stays there.
We haven't included that in our budget in terms of on the revenue side. No.
That's wise.
Yeah, that's all I've
Yeah,
got.
I think it's.
Well, they said they had no plans for it until 2040. Isn't that it?
Oh, yeah, these.
They
Yeah,
may,
yeah.
after 2040, they may use it for
And
something.
the last time they talked about their own plans, they were talking like they were in financial hardship and were not devoting a lot of money into, and arguing about what the real growth rate was going to be in the ID service area. So that was some of the arguments they got into amongst themselves, was the planning and how much they really needed all those water rights that are in the projects the water agency is working on.
Well, unfortunately, there's no interest accruing on that $1 million. And if they want to use Texas Hill, there's still a lot of privately owned property in there that's going up every year as far as value. So it's going to be tougher and tougher for them to even, utilize that property. So at some point, they're probably going to sell it. And maybe we'll get our money then.
Well, I'd be happy to just give, rather than giving, is just fund some of our projects, or continue to fund our projects. They are supporting us very, very
Done our fair
well
share
right now.
recently, yeah.
Last few years with Ken in there, we're getting our fair share of the money flowing through the water agency.
Yeah. Well, the last guy didn't help us that much. Some, but it was Dwayne's guy. Right, Dwayne?
I don't know. I was gone for 6 years. What'd you do?
Didn't you hire him, Dylan?
I don't think so. I don't know. I think there was 3 supervisors. Anyway, knock it out.
Okay, general manager report.
Just a couple of notes. The reason why Shannon isn't here is he's down. There's a meeting between the CPUC and the State Water Board talking about consolidation of water districts around the state of California. And the State Water Board is all over that and is really in favor of that. And, so they're having an open discussion about how that might work. And since it was a workshop, there was stated the opportunity to make comments from agencies and from the public. So we thought we'd get our 2 cents in terms of that process. And I guess the other thing that Tim actually got a letter from was it the health department or was it the state board or state board talking about consolidation, how great a thing it was, and had this big list of all these really small private well owners in South Tahoe saying how great it would be as if they all consolidated with the district, and so they have their their perception that the more consolidations the better, but sometimes I don't think they understand the situation on the ground. So anyway, Shannon was going down there to protect our interests. Then we're also in the process of preparing a letter on the funding, particularly we've talked about the state process about supplementing low-income people, anybody that's below the 200% of the federal poverty line, not being able to afford their water bills and getting assistance from the state of California to pay their water bills. The big issue there is where's the money going to come from to fund the program, and the State Water Board would like it to be a water tax on all the water agencies in the state of California, put money in a pot down at the water board for them to take their administrative cut and then decide how they're going to redistribute it back to the poor people. Well, they're just making all of our water bills higher, and our perception is that almost half our people would qualify for 200% of the federal poverty line, but then they're making the water bill for those people go up by the way they're funding the program. So we don't think that's a really good way to fund it. So that's we're talking about. When we talk about political letters, that is one of the letters we're sending in saying, and it's also Aqua's position that this a water tax across the state of California is not the way to fund something like that.
It's a math issue. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you increase it so you can kind of give them the money to decrease their bill. It's like anyway. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention was that, and I think John mentioned it. John Teal mentioned it in some of the things we're doing right now. What we're working with Caltrans up on Luther Pass. They're trying to fix some of the drainage problems they had this past winter when they had flooding on that road, and they're down to at one point they want to put a couple of additional cross culverts in underneath Highway 89, and the spot that they want to put them under is in the location where our Beeline Phase 3 runs parallel to that pipeline. And the reason why I bring it up is I want to make sure that in case somebody says anything to any of you guys about, what kind of being, I think the Caltrans employees think we're being kind of stubborn and picky about the situation, picky about not working around a live line that at that location runs about 400 pounds per square inch of pressure. 2-foot pipeline, it'll blow equipment off the road if they put a hole in it, it's operating. We're placing a lot of restrictions on them, times and lengths of time the line can be down and stuff. You go back into the planning, and Dwayne and Jim remember, you go back to the planning of Beeline Phase 3, the district's alternative that we proposed and we were in favor of was to cross Highway 89 perpendicular one location and not be under that road running parallel to the center line because of the danger to the public, the traveling public, the public access, danger for contractors digging around doing exactly what now they're proposing to do on that highway. And we asked Caltrans for their support to counteract the environmentalist preferred alternative, which TRP put out after they tricked us into putting in the environmental document to make the document complete, and then they said their preferred alternative was running that line back down Grass Lake Road from Luther Pass Pump Station and then up the highway all the way to the entrance to the overflow campground for the Forest Service and then up that road. So we went under that road for $5,000 for almost a mile, and the alternative cost 4 to 5 times plus $20 million instead of $4 million.
My number that I remember was $17 million.
Yes.
But it could be more. That was another trip to Washington,
yeah. But,
and it was a battle.
Yeah. So when I got on the phone with the Caltrans director of this region, I asked, I didn't beg, but I requested in no uncertain terms that they assist us in that we did not want to run under that highway parallel to the center line. We wanted to cross it at 1.90 degrees. We asked their help in basically deflecting the desired alternative from the environmentalists, and they basically cowed, wouldn't do that, and basically agreed to a compromise alternative, which is where we went out the back of the station, up the hill. When we hit the highway, we then made a right-hand turn, went up the highway about 1,000 feet, parallel to the center line, and then up that access road. And that's exactly where they want to cross our line with their drainage facilities now. So if you get approached by anybody in the community, anybody from Caltrans, anybody from saying, that your staff is being uncooperative and stuff, there's the background now. What they're doing is exactly what we were afraid they would do. And you just heard before the meeting that the city scraped our force main from one of our small pump stations coming towards the treatment plant, and then encased in concrete, and later on it leaked, and that's the leak we're out there fixing. And that station runs at what, 50 psi? We're talking about a station at that location they're crossing our lines running at 400 psi, and it's a 2-foot diameter pipe, not a 4-inch diameter pipe. So concern and being careful, Yes, we are, and we will continue to be that. And so the reason why this situation exists is because Caltrans wouldn't say no and wouldn't refuse to give us a permit, which we asked them to refuse to give us a permit because when they got on the phone, they started yelling at me, and I said, we don't want to be there. We want to just cross you guys in one spot, 90 degrees, be done, which is what the old line did. So
There were some.
What was it? The backstory.
It's important that
behind the news.
It's important that the board hear this, even though you're thinking, oh, they're rehashing old stuff. $17 million and probably an extra construction season and danger to the public. So we fought like, you know what.
But without
we went over to the Forest Service office that one time, the Department of Agriculture building, and had to fight with them.
I told them, I said, next Tuesday we're going to hold a press conference. And it was Dave Kenny. And I said, if we, either it's going to be the Forest Service has been very helpful and we thank them and appreciate it, or we're going to blast you out of the water. And then Jim, I left, I was so mad, and Jim stayed around and they said, okay, we'll do it. It was not fun, but that was when Doolittle called them communists. But it worked.
That's not the only time.
That wasn't the only time either.
Well, they were.
Blaine, that wasn't the only time you called them.
No, it was regular. It worked, though.
So anyway, that's, I don't know anything, so I think Chris has a report from the...
Yep, we get to hear about update. It's all done and buttoned up,
Hopefully
right?
this is the last one.
Okay.
On a side note, though, I've been attending those meetings with Caltrans, and you need to start coming to more meetings with us, because it would have been great to have you sit there and remember that kind of stuff. Yeah, you would have probably made the meeting go a little bit better.
Yeah, I told, when I saw John had assigned it to, while he's on vacation, assigned the point contact to Shannon. I explained that to Shannon before he left for Sacramento.
Yeah. It was interesting meetings, but that would have helped us tremendously.
Yeah.
But anyways, Tahoe Keys, it was a rough go, as usual. I don't know what it is about Tahoe Keys, but it just does not like me out there. But
not you.
We had trouble with the Pro Pipe came up. They blew a turbo on the truck. They were supposed to be up here Tuesday, do the job Wednesday and Thursday. Because of the turbo blowing up, we ended up doing it Thursday and Friday. And I got to tell you, there's more traffic on Friday in the Keys intersection than I think out on Highway 50. But we tried to talk to them about maybe waiting until Monday to do the second half, which constituted all the crossings and everything else. But when they get the liners, there's a window of about 10 to 14 days that liner can sit in a refrigerated truck. Well, because of the boiler and the turbo and everything, we were looking at about 11 days already. So to wait three more just wasn't going to work. Then the guy had other liners in there for other jobs for that following week. So that was pretty disheartening. So we just went ahead and went for it. And we paid for it. The traffic was just terrible, but the guys all worked together. Everything went pretty smooth. I contacted the city. The city was okay with it. They came out and looked at all of our traffic control and were fine with it. And they were saying that our water was too cold, so it kind of delayed things. But a long story short, Thursday night, the guys worked, I think it was till around 1 o'clock. And then we didn't have to have anybody overnight other than I don't think we had anybody that night. Friday night is where we had to have people out there, and we had about 4 or 5 guys that had to stay the night out there watching the crossings and the traffic and all the pumping that we had going. Pro Pipe, I believe, left Saturday morning around 3 to 5 o'clock in the morning. So they worked all day and all night along with some of my crews. But everything's pretty much done. The one thing that I had mentioned to you before, when they put the liner in, we noticed water coming in to the manhole. I believe is still coming from that hole that's in the pipe. So what we're going to do, we've been really busy doing other things and getting ready for other jobs. But we need to go in there one night, have a couple guys do a confined space entry when there's no flow, and we will get that grouted up. So that's the only thing that's really left to do. And at this point, it's not to us a big emergency. We want to do it the next few weeks, but it's not like we have to jump on it right away. The water's coming right into the manhole, so we seem to be okay at this point. So
Fiberglass liner looks good on. Did you run a camera through it?
ProPipe did. They
ProPipe
did a camera before and after on all of it. I have not seen the film yet. I'm not sure if Doug has it yet or not.
They're going to provide that to us?
Yes.
A copy of the...
Yes, I asked that we get a copy of it. The manhole TK1, which goes out to Venice intersection, was an 80-foot run. There was chunks of concrete in there. There was chunks of asphalt. There was chunks of pipe laying in there. So that put us behind a couple hours. They were so big, the hydro had trouble bringing it back into the manhole where we could get a hold of it. We finally sent a guy in with Ron Goralski, which is, 6 foot something, got long arms, and a 3-foot rake, and he was able to reach up the pipe and bring some of that back. So little delays here and there, but final outcome is I hope we don't ever have to go back to that section for as long as I'm here.
Well, the fiberglass liner under the dams has been in there since 1988, and we haven't had to touch it, so.
Yes.
Same type of liner.
And then Jim Hilton also took one of the representatives out to Alpine County for that inverted siphon that you've probably heard about. And it's not impossible to do. ProPipe, I don't think, can handle the job according to what this gentleman was saying, but there are other companies, so we're going to get in there and then the end of this month, help Jim de-water it, get all the debris, if there's any in there, and TV it, and then we'll go from there. Maybe in the winter come back and talk to you about what the options may or may not be. So that's just a quick one thing I would like to add. I've been talking about Fallen Leaf Lake. After what I saw my guys go through, it really just sticks with me. So we've been talking every week. I have a weekly meeting with all the supervisors and the electrical supervisor, Jared, and we've completed Station 4. I'd like to have Station 3 completed before snow flies. So we are working on that, and electrical's got the panel that we need for the station. Phil ordered some pumps, so we're going to go ahead and start on that. And instead of waiting until after Labor Day when the traffic slows down, I'd like to get the crew in there and start down at the beach where we left off and go ahead and go up cross country. Just put traffic in there that I think we can be okay with as far as controlling everything. After Labor Day, if everything works out right, we'll get back in there and try to go across all the driveways, asphalt, and try to complete Station 3 also, turning it from vacuum to electric. So I'll have more at a later date on exactly what we're doing and where we're going if you'd like. So, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris. I think we're good. Thanks, Chris. Good job.
One quick thing. Previously, I reported that construction start date for the meters mount, which is 5 meters. We received that in writing. I think the date was slightly different than they told us, but the date's still fine. But even more importantly, they provided the terms of the loan, which includes the interest rate for the report, 1.8%, as well as the $4 million.
Wow, they actually came through.
Yeah.
So it obviously was very frustrating. Took a lot of time, took a lot of staff time, your time, but in the long run, it's still worth utilizing that program.
Yeah, $4 million loan for forgiveness, I think so. And that interest rate, yeah.
We're not going to get a check for $4 million, but the checks we send back.
Yeah, no,
really small.
I get it. I get it. Hey, it's still $4 million bucks.
Yeah.
That you don't have to pay.
Right.
Richard, are you doing Shannon's thing here?
I already did when I said the Senate Bill 623.
Okay, so that's what you commented on. Okay.
Telling the state we don't agree on a water tax to fund
Okay.
this supplemental money for low-income folks.
All right, cool. You can see past and future meetings. I guess the next one is who else going to this Lake Tahoe Summit thing? You going, Dwayne?
Yeah.
Jim, you're going to be watching the eclipse along with 500,000 of your best friends.
I have no idea. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of people there.
Rich is going to be there.
Make sure you get the right glasses.
Portland, North Bend, Madras.
Madras, yeah.
Make sure you get the right glasses. There's fake glasses out there on the market.
No, we got a group, we get the right class.
I was going to go to Madras, but now I'm going to go to John Day.
But if you can get there, the roads are going to be crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Why is there certain locations that are better? Is that it?
No, it's just a path across the country, and everybody in the country's flocking to this path.
You are.
It'll be about 83%
They're not really,
eclipse here.
yeah, 80, they're not really going to follow it the way. It's going to be going about 2,000 miles an hour up in Oregon, so they're
Well,
not
we
going to follow
go,
it too far.
we turn at 1,000 miles an hour. What if we're turning the wrong way?
It's-
I'm afraid we're going to get slugged off.
All right, I see we've degenerated here, so I better adjourn this meeting if nobody else has anything.
How are we staying on?
Thanks all of you.
Put somebody on that.